Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, as you can tell, we'll be talking about a new winter storm, a new storm threat. It actually has quite a bit to do with the one we've been talking about for the past few days. However, it combines its moisture and energy with a hurricane. So definitely an interesting setup, and this thing is going to be very large. We have to see how much of the winter impacts will actually occur, but definitely a ton of rain and wind is on its way. And without further ado, let's start talking about this. Before we do, actually, if you guys would like to subscribe to this channel, consider doing so. It's a weather-related channel, and we do all sorts of weather forecasts, long-range forecasts, winter storm forecasts. So consider doing that if you like the content. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video is awesome. So let's get into this. Let's start off by looking at the RGEM model. I like to look at this model first because this was one of the earlier models that showed this storm accurately, and then the rest of the models kind of joined along with it. So let's just see what it has to say. Notice that right now we have precipitation scattered across a general area, a bit across Illinois, right there across the Midwest, then quite a bit across the South, and you can see that we have that second wave of that system still going on. But notice a lot of moisture starts flowing from the tropics, and I mean a lot. We see also a hurricane add on to this, so there's just the amount, the levels of moisture are just going to be beyond abundant across these locations. And notice that this intensifies. This is a large precip shield at this point, moderate to some pretty heavy rainfall, and this is now late tomorrow and into early Thursday. This continues moving into further into the inland United States, and as we see this form into this giant mass of rain, I mean, look at that. That is some very heavy rainfall. No snow yet, right? There could be a bit of snow mixing in at the western side of this, but we start coinciding, or this system, with a cold shot of air, and the Northeast looks to get impacted by that. So notice that we see the storm take a positive tilt on the axis. You can see it starts moving towards the north and east versus just north to south. And while we do that, it allows for a lot of the cold air to mix in. And this is now around midday, a bit later in the evening. A bit later in the afternoon, Thursday, we have a ton of rain occurring. You can see that the winds are pretty strong, and that we see some snow mixing in. Now, the thing is that this may be an interesting setup where it starts raining, and then the rain cools the atmosphere enough to the point where it starts snowing, and this is only possible when the temperatures are marginal and it's a very, very cold rain. And you can see that that may be the case here. We start seeing the snow first across the higher elevations, and then after a few hours of this heavy, heavy rain, we start seeing the snow spread gradually into parts of New York and New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, the lower elevation areas, and some areas with no elevation. So some of these rates could be very heavy if this does occur. This is late Thursday. This starts occurring and into early Friday, October 30th, right before Halloween. And then this thing moves off the coast, but you can see the winds are strong. A lot of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Boston gets a bit of taste of that snow. And then this moves into southeastern Canada with quite a good amount of snow. And that is definitely something. Let's see if I could take a look at southeastern Canada with this model. I can actually, because I have a lot of viewers from southeastern Canada, so I want to take this along. You can see right there, we see a lot of snow developing across these locations that definitely would lead to several inches of snow. And then this thing, this is as far as it goes, but you can see it's still pretty strong, lots of moisture, so we definitely have to watch to what it does. Let's go to the regions and focus on the Northeast and or just the eastern United States. This takes in account Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. And let's look at the total snowfall. Look at that right there. Very, very heavy snow potential right there. Many locations possibly seeing up to a foot. And then across the Northeast, some pretty decent amounts. areas like Boston, Worcester, maybe even Albany, possibly New York City seeing a bit, but look at these locations. I mean, could be looking at a general 4 to 6 to 7 to 8 inches of snow, and there's still a lot of uncertainty with this, as not all models agree with this. Some models show less, some models show more. And if we were to look at, for example, the GFS parallel model, this is a model that was very confident in this storm at the beginning. It showed like, ridiculous amounts of snow for the Northeast a couple days ago, this model. It doesn't do that anymore, and you can see it's still loading in the latest model run. This one, apologize about the phone. And this model is oftentimes a bit delayed, so this is still the model run from noon Tuesday, while it's already Tuesday evening. You could see that, hopefully we can get a bit of frames in here. It does show definitely snow mixing in, but we don't see the full extent as it skips over a bunch of hours and a bunch of frames. So I don't really want to show that. So let's go back to the model run prior from that same model. You can see it shows that system right, but definitely a bit weaker and not as much snow as it used to. And I'll just show you in just a bit what it used to show. First, the total snowfall. You can see still some pockets seeing some generally heavy amounts of snow. And you may be looking at this and being like, how is this a big winter storm? This isn't huge. Well, it is pretty big for Halloween and October. Some of these locations will be seeing half a foot of snow. But even if this does turn out to be a flop on the winter side, the rain will be very heavy. You can see that the GFS parallel shows a lot of locations seeing plus 1 inch to 2 inches, even in some locations. Definitely not out of the question to see 3, 4 inches. And of course, across the south where the hurricane makes the landfall, there will be amounts of 7 to 8 inches of rain. And that is what the National Weather Service is predicting. And let's take a look at like a couple days back, say Saturday, this model, the GFS parallel, showed quite a bit more snowfall. You could see right there a different kind of layout, but a lot of snow, and it was pretty accurate with the system right here. But it has backed off on that, but we still have a few days from that scenario, from this northeast system, nor'easter. So this could definitely still increase its snowfall amounts. I don't think to this point that's shown here, but definitely a bit is still possible. Let's take a look at the NAM 12KM. This goes out to 84 hours, and you can see this model shows very little amounts of snow. Nothing that we would even call a winter storm at this point. And if we were to go back, take this one by one, and wait for the model to run, you'd see that there's the precip, there's the rain, but it just doesn't go as far to the north. And it's interesting. These models, to be honest, have been kind of all over the place. And if like the models that show this system at the beginning, now show it weaker. The models that didn't show the system at all at the beginning are now showing it the strongest. So you can see the NAM 12KM doesn't take this far to the north, which doesn't allow for a lot of snow to mix in, resulting in that failure. So we'll have to see how if something like this would more likely to be happen, or what I showed you earlier with a different model, the RGEM. And this model I don't think goes out that far, but yeah, you can see this model takes it further to the north. So if this were to happen, this would lead to a bit more snowfall, and to be honest, this doesn't go out that far, but you could assume that would be more than what the NAM 12KM shows. The regular GFS model, this is what it shows as of its latest run. Again, we have a ton of moisture moving through the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic region, and then you can see a bit of snow does mix in. It's generally nothing incredible, nothing extraordinary. However, it's definitely still potentially could change, and it has been jumping around all over all the models. So there's definitely a lot of uncertainty whether or not this will happen. You can see this model, the GFS, doesn't show that much snow across these locations. It's still a general 3 to 5 inches, 3 to 6 inches, so that's still impressive, but not as impressive as what I showed you earlier with the GFS parallel and what it was showing earlier across the week or a couple days ago. And again, even if the snow doesn't accumulate as much, the precipitation out of this thing will be pretty extraordinary. You can see large amounts of rain, large amounts of rainfall, and we see generally 2 to 3 to 4 inches across these locations, so definitely something to watch for. Let's take a look at the Canadian model. This is a model that is pretty good, especially with the northeast systems. It tends to do its best job with those systems. Overall, though, it isn't the best model. But notice it shows a bit more rain already. Widespread amounts of 3 to 4 instead of that 1 to 2 inches, so definitely a bit more of that rain. And in terms of the total snowfall, notice it takes it a bit further to the north, so that's already a better sign if you wanted that snow. You can see total snowfall is a bit more significant across the northeast. We see large amounts of 6 to even some locations up to a foot of snow, which is definitely impressive. And taking a glance at the European model, the final model I want to show you, we see in terms of this model, by the way, the European was the reluctant one to show this storm a few days ago. Never, it didn't want to show it at all, and now it seems to be the main proponent of the snowier scenario. And notice that what we see here is quite a bit of snow, actually. I mean, it isn't extraordinary, right? And it looks pretty small. But if we were to zoom in on this and go into the regions, we would see that there are actually quite some significant amounts of precipitation. So let's go here to the northeastern United States and take a glance at this. With this setup, we would see quite a bit of snow across Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Albany, those locations, and into possibly Syracuse. Maybe seeing a bit of snow. Northern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, New York City, maybe seeing a few snow showers. Boston, maybe an inch or two, but again, nothing too extraordinary. But again, this is still bound to change, and the European has stayed pretty consistent in terms of its setup once it did start showing that system a few days ago. And in terms of precip type and MSLP, so let's just look at the radar, the simulated radar of what it may look like, and wait for this to load. Well, it's taking quite a while for this, so I'll bring you back once it does load. And I just want to say, or look at the precipitation right here. We already have quite a bit of rain coming around, floating around the area, if you will, and this only continues to increase with this large system. Again, very heavy rainfall is almost a guarantee, but we start seeing that snow mixing, and that's some pretty heavy snow right there. And as we push this forward, it kind of that goes away pretty quickly, right? But you can see Boston seeing a bit of precipitation of snow, Rhode Island, Connecticut. So definitely interesting to see how this exactly sets up. But I think some of the models may be underestimating some of this mixing. So just to show you the level of unconfidence that these models provide, this is the National Weather Service expected snowfall. You can see it's really not that high, right? 1, 2, 3, maybe some pockets of higher inches. But then the high end amount, so like the highest amounts that most likely will fall, you could see 7, 6, 5. This is the 1 in 10 chance, so a 10% chance of this happening. You can see right there. And then they also have, look at the low end amounts, nothing, 0, nil. So the range on this is absolutely extraordinary, and the confidence is very, very low. So they have to go over this and see what the models exactly do in the next few days, because right now there's still a lot of confusion. But as of now, that is basically it. Oh yeah, by the way, here's like the whole New York State. So this is expected. This is the low end amount, nothing. And here's a high end amount, a pretty nice system. So that's basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.